Those cats, it was what you may call now smooth jazz. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Yeah,
yeah.
like R&B smooth jazz, and it was cool. And I loved the playing, but I was starting to go a little further in my mind.
So I,
Experiment.
I'm gonna take a guess here. If I had to guess, you really dug Herbie Hancock then,
Oh yeah.
because
Oh
at
yeah.
that time, and
Oh
he was
yeah.
using Bay Area percussionist Bill Summers, and
Yes, indeed.
ironically, for me with Herbie, and I'll let you have this because I know you want to take off on this. Unlike most of the jazz cats during that time, whether it would be Roy Ayers or whatever it may be, Herbie Hancock to me seemed to get funk players that played jazz. You know, Paul Jackson
Right.
Jr. and
Right.
Blackbird, as
Yes,
opposed to
indeed.
jazz players playing jazz. He had funk cats that, because when you start thinking about Headhunters
Yeah.
and the Man Child album with Hang Up
Right.
Your Hang Ups and all of that,
Yeah.
man.
And I think he was switching into a different style, so to speak, like Miles did. You know,
Yeah.
changing the scene a little bit, moving into a different direction of playing. Although he didn't let go of his roots of classical jazz and all that, he kind of modernized some of the segments of his grooves by using those cats like Paul Jackson,
Yeah, Bill Summers.
Summers. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, the wonderful thing about this is really kind of a Bay Area topic because he was recording up here in San Francisco at the Automat, just like Confunction, with
Right,
Pointer
right,
Sisters, and
right.
it was at Graham Central Station. I'm not sure if Graham Central Station was there because at that point they had switched from Willie Wild on drums to Gaylord Birch. But I know the Pointer Sisters, even believe it or not, Quiet as kept Patti LaBelle after she had left LaBelle after the Alan Toussaint, you know, the Meters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
but she was
okay. No, the meters.
she was
Oh, meters.
she had, matter of fact, Ray Parker Jr. And, you know, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that jam, A Joy to Have Your Love. That was actually recorded up here in the Bay Area at the Automat, the same place
Okay.
where Confunction.
You know, a lot of people came out
A
here
lot of people came here.
because I was in a studio called Different Fur out in San Francisco years ago, ironically with a rap band recording. And I noticed all the albums on the walls. It was Sly, with Herbie, and
Yeah.
Confunction. And I was just so many people had came through that studio. It was a top-notch studio. But I was surprised to see Herbie and those guys, you know.
Oh man, are
Gold
you
Records,
kidding?
Different Fur Studio.
You know, the Blackbirds used to record at Fantasy right there at 10th
Right.
and
Oh,
Parker.
that was a clean
Pleasure
studio.
was there. And then Sausalito, the record plant, Rick James, they basically lived here. They used to go to Silks all the
Yeah.
time. I'm very close with those guys. And the whole Street Songs album, Give It To Me, Baby, all that stuff was done here. And Quiet as Kept, Stevie Wonder did a lot of songs in the key of life here. Some of it was done at Crystal in LA, but some of it was done up here at the record plant. So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So it's this Bay Area thing. I'm kind of glad that I actually got you up here. And I was thinking about, when I thought about you, I immediately thought about Sheila E. and,
Yeah,
Confunction and
yes,
just that stuff. A
yes.
thought or two?
Uh, Roots. I mean, just driving bloodlines of playing and the musicianship and the love for the craft. You know, Sheila E. and Confunction and all. You know, it's still going all these years.
Prince took that funk and he took it back to Minneapolis. You know, he came to Oakland and Vallejo and got the players from up here and took the.
Hey.
And matter of fact, Quiet as Kept, his first album was also done up here at the record
I
plant.
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it was at the record plant, Soft and Wet and all that. Record plant.
Oh, okay.
So it makes sense, but yeah, man.
And you know, you mentioned fantasy records.
Yeah,
I
man.
always loved the mixes that Fantasy Records had on their albums. What was the group that came out of? Was it Time? It's slipping my mind right now, but they did their albums over at Fantasy, and the quality of sound. Oh, Fantasy had such quality in their albums.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who did albums there.
This is
you
Bay
just-
Area
you could
black
see.
history that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could see right there in Berkeley. You could see. I mean, you could just hear every instrument just crystal clear.
I'm glad you brought that up, man, because that's a part of Bay Area, a lot of black history that was actually done there. Because when you think about record companies, you would automatically think Motown, or you would think about Stax in Memphis, or Solar in LA or whatever. But the
Mm-hmm.
Bay Area is not really known for like having that one record company like that. So
Ah.
you would think, but a lot of quality stuff that was
Oh,
actually
there's
done
some
there, man.
quality stuff over there. I wish I could think of the name of that group, but also Pleasure did.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of that stuff down there.
the Dust Yourself Off LP was definitely done
Yeah,
there.
yeah, there's some clean sounds in there. Every time I put on a fantasy recording, back in those days, I mean, the quality was just set aside from other albums that I, would listen to. And even if I didn't particularly care for the group as much as maybe some
Yeah.
other label, the quality, the clarity and mixes were just so beautiful. I can appreciate, the sounds, even though the group may not have been one of my favorites.
Well, you mentioned quality and that whole vibe, and you just jarred something in my head about another group that was out of Los Angeles, but they actually made their black history and history up here in the Bay Area. This is basically their home, and I'm speaking on the Whispers.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they were brought
yeah.
up here to the Bay Area by Vallejo High School graduate Sly Stone.
Okay.
A thought or two about the Whispers and
The Whispers,
Sly or whatever.
Sly is family. Sly sat on the side of my dad in church, watching my dad play the organ as a kid, when Sly was a kid. His first cousin, Moses, did the same thing, sat next to my dad playing the organ. Rance Vaughn, same thing. Bishop Newton Wright. These cats sat next to my dad playing the organ or learning how to play the
Yeah.
organ. And Whispers, in fact, my brother, Rob Reason, ended up working with, what was the last one?
Not
just,
Lavelle?
just passed.
Oh, wait a minute, not
Nick,
Gordon, Nick.
Big Nick.
Yeah, Big Nick.
Yeah, they were writing some cuts for Nick, my brother and another friend of his, Philip Armstrong, both Bay Area brothers. Nick was trying to come out and do his own little thing, so
Yeah.
they ended up writing a few songs, but I don't think it ever jumped off. But yeah, it just, Nick would come down to the house, and we were like, man, we thought they were joking.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, here's Nick driving up to the house, Okay. Just Bay Area. But the talent and the love that Bay Area musicians, producers, engineers, everybody seemed to have a certain love and appreciation for each other, no matter what genre you were in, what position you played as far as in the band or whatnot. There was just a special love between all involved, seemed like to me, when back in those days, 60s, 70s, 80s, early 80s, I should say.
For me, I thought what was very powerful is the brothers that were coming out like Marvin Holmes and the Uptights. I mean, bands that could really, really play, that were, they don't get a lot of love. Matter of fact, they did a lot of the backing tracks for that Mac soundtrack, as far as, Now Is the Time,
Gotcha.
Sister Love, and all of
Gotcha.
that. It's funny because I was thinking about other type of funk stuff, but now that we're talking about this black history up here in the Bay Area, I think a lot of people would be really, really surprised at the people, like even like somebody like, let's just say, Ndugu Chancellor, who's Michael Jackson's drummer, but
Right.
Carlos Santana, he's our Mexican brother,
Yes,
he's
indeed.
a part of this.
Yes,
but
indeed.
Ndugu and Byron Miller, before they were with George Duke, and George Duke was born up here, as we're sitting up here talking in San Rafael. He was a Bay Area guy. All this, but as we're sitting up here talking, it's all coming back to me now, man.
Yeah, I mean, even up in like Marin County, Narada, Michael Walden.
Yeah, because you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, Eric knows this, I'm sure, but Whitney Houston's, a lot of her first album was actually done by Narada Michael Walden, Bay Area resident, right on Francisco 55 Francisco Boulevard in San Rafael.
He did a few for Aretha also.
Yeah, that's right.
Brought her back.
Freeway of Love.
Right.
That's right.
Brought her back.
That's
in the
right.
mix.
The Bay Area black music scene.
And
It's
then
just
you
incredible.
spoke with George Duke. I remember seeing him with Frank Zappa.
Mothers of Invention.
Just killer
and
groups.
you talking about big man? This is what man, brother. Black history from the Bay Area. Let me tell you, George Duke is not somebody to sneeze at. He was basically music director for the majority of the Soul Train Music Awards. He is actually one of the keyboard players on the title track, Off the Wall by Michael Jackson.
Right.
Look inside the album jacket, you will see George Duke's name.
Yes,
He just one of the
the
most talented
greatest.
cats. He is a cat that is sorely, sorely missed.
Yes,
He's incredible, man. I mean, he goes down like Greg Fillinganes.
His vocals too.
He's
a good vocalist.
He's a great vocalist, man. Yeah, hey, man.
And I'm sure he played other instruments, but his keyboard playing was second to none.
Yeah.
I mean, piano, acoustic piano, or the Arc Moog and Mini Moog, and it was just unreal. Some of the stuff he was doing way back when, and then to see him when he came out on his solo projects with Marcus Miller and Sheila E. and those. It was just, you can go back to the 70s and see him doing that.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's funny because we're supposed to be talking about this area of the funk or whatever, but boy, this Bay Area stuff, and I'm glad that we're on Vallejo Community Access Television because the people we're talking about are like literally right here.
Yeah, a lot of
and you don't realize that we have changed the world with what we have done up here. And that's not even talking about like the hip hop and E40s is different people, but even like H.E.R. now, Lil Gabby,
exactly.
All this power that this Black history that basically came up out of here.
Exactly.
It's just moving, just sitting up here talking about it.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I predict her. I call her princess. She's gonna be like a prince.
She's bad.
She's got time.
Yeah.
I mean, not to take away anything from Prince, but I remember Gabby when she was just a little girl.
I do too.
Yeah, and you can just see it. You can just see it, and her dad Ken, and big up Ken, mom and dad, the support they gave her, and her drive, and her dedication to the skills.
Yeah.
And every time I see her, it's just going up and up and up and up and up. It's just a beautiful thing, Vallejo to represent Vallejo, and come out of here to see these youngsters coming up. So beautiful, so beautiful. And then your platform, to give them some output locally, because it's needed. And I was telling Brother Calvin before we started, I look forward to his program, Soul School, as I did looking for Soul Train on Saturday mornings. We were running in the den, turn the TV on, Soul Train's coming on. I wonder who's coming on today. That's the way I feel when I come and look at your programs, man, and wait for them to air, and usually Saturday mornings I'm up 9, 10 o'clock or so, it's usually coming on, and I just can't wait to see it,
It goes along the line, I would hope, of the teachers that I've had before, which was like Jay Payton, God rest his soul. Jay Payton was the cat for me coming up. He used to come on Chemo, Channel 20, before it was Coffee TV 20. He had a show called Soul Is with Big Pinky. And then the Jay Payton show, and he was the cat that I watched as far as like locally. Of course, you have the...
You ought to be having fun.